Hey everybody, Matt Michaels here, along with Sin City Steve and Simon Street on the Vegas Badboyz of podcasting. And this week, DJ Impact starts his long vacation, and so we brought here one of the best, guys we know around. He has his own show, according to Woods. Mr. Adam Woods, one of the most knowledgeable guys about pro wrestling and MMA. What's going on, Adam?
What's good, party people? It's an honor to be here with you guys. I'm not a Vegas bad boy, but I'm a moderately naughty gentleman from Los Angeles or Sleaze. So there you go. I mean, if you can't work your gimmick, you can't work, right? So just say it.
This is true. This is very
Oh
true.
man. Having you here, Adam, you chose a great time because Sin City Steve was actually at Double or Nothing last week, and we're going to do something a little different. We're actually going to talk about AEW here from the perspective of being at the live event, and of course, Simon Street and Adam Woods watching the event as well, and Dynamite as the follow-up, and just kind of get into that, and then give some opinions later on the rest of the week of wrestling. So, Steve, the atmosphere in the T-Mobile Center, listen, we got hockey going on. We got the Stanley Cup Finals going on. We know how crazy that is.
We got 1-0.
1-0
series.
So what was it like for the crowd in there? And we're seeing all these pictures of empty seats, hard camera side, which they're trying to, play off as they couldn't sell tickets. What was the atmosphere like, and how did that night start off, and how did it go for you, man?
Sure. So ultimately, let's talk about the elephant in the room right out of the gate. Every photo on the internet shot from, I guess you could say, opposite hard cam, shooting back facing the hard cam. You see the nearly 2 empty sections. It was brought to light on Pat McAfee's show. He made the comment that the arena was 3/4 empty, blah, blah, blah. The fact of the matter is, outside of those 2 sections where the hard cam was, it was pretty well populated. And a lot of the images at first happened during the pre-show, during the buy-in. Now, keep in mind what time in the afternoon that is. That's 4:00 in the afternoon. So obviously it's this, that, and the other. But no matter what kind of a narrative that you want to believe, you'll find facts to support your viewpoint. So I could sit here and recant everything that I witnessed firsthand, everything that I saw, but ultimately it's up to the viewer to make their own opinion and not be swayed or, feed into a narrative that's out there.
Even though they did sell 1,500 less tickets than last year. So
correct. That is a fact. They did sell fewer tickets than they did the previous year. Ultimately, from what I saw and I was directly opposite hard cam. So what I saw was obviously those 2 nearly empty sections. But as I looked to my left and I looked to my right, I saw plenty of people. And I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be back at T-Mobile Arena. I know, according to the media scrum, Tony Khan had mentioned that, that T-Mobile Arena was a great partner for them, blah, blah, blah. But you kind of have to wonder if they're going to be back. I know that Vegas was where AEW was formed. The first show, Double or Nothing, in 2019 was at the MGM Grand. But ultimately, they may need to give this market a bit of a rest. There are a lot of things at play right now. And, you can say whatever you want with regards to inflation or, the economy. People have less disposable income right now. And, things are higher priced, such as lodging, which is definitely a contributing factor. Also, let's call it what we will. The product isn't that hot in AEW, and it's not as hot as what it was 1 year ago. That's a fact. So it was almost just a litany of reasons why this show did not perform. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of the in-ring performances reflected that. So often we see mediocre cards that just happen to be done in front of great crowds, and the crowd is able to elevate the quality of that show match by match. This show actually it started pretty hot. The battle royal was pretty hot, and quite frankly, you all know how I feel about battle royals. I fucking hate them. That being said, this was probably one of the better battle royals that AEW's done in recent memory. The problem is from there, you follow it up with a match that, in theory, everybody should have gone crazy over. Adam Cole versus Chris Jericho in an unsanctioned match. No, they just did not react very well to this match. I don't know if it was the build. I don't know if it was the, quite frankly, unnecessary match stipulation. It was very interesting to me that a city that is built on MMA and where MMA is, the Mecca is Las Vegas. You have essentially an MMA finish with a ref stoppage under a ground and pound, and the crowd doesn't pop for it.
Let Adam jump in on that, because I think Adam, you're shaking your head there. What's your feelings on that, being that you're so versed in MMA, man?
I completely agree with Steve here, because yes, it is. It's a finish. We just had UFC Fight Night Vegas, right? And you get your stipulations, at least in the UFC, right, on finishes or match performance or submissions, right? We had a finish, what you would want out of a 15 or a 25 main card, main event, or title fight. And we had that here. And I think the build was great in terms of like what they did and situated Britt Baker and, the caning or whatever. But I think there was a lot of stuff on Twitter about how Adam Cole wasn't necessarily handcuffed, right? So I think that a lot of luster, because we are serving, at least AEW is serving a like a hardcore, like insider, pardon the pun, but like keyboard warrior-esque fan base, right? And with that all being said, once you have something like that go out on Twitter, there is literally a Twitter account called AEW Botches, and they come up with fresh content almost on a daily basis. AEW has 2, maybe 3 shows a week right now that Dark and Dark Elevation are gone, going into Collision, and here we are, right? So I also thought, right, and I thought it was just me, I don't know, like Jim Cornette
right,
said the quiet part that I was thinking out loud, that both Jericho and Adam Cole, they were over in other places, right? Maybe in a WWE system, and Jericho a WCW system, but they looked like they were maybe 2.5 steps behind, right? They were missing each other's spots, that they were like, they might have put concrete in their wrestling boots, because it was just the match flow was just a bit off. And I would say 2.5 steps, it's like when you see somebody just hit the ropes for the first time and they kind of timid or whatever. That was the entire match. Two tenured professionals, literally over 50 years experience between them both, right? And I just think, it was just lackluster, and then you get the finish. Well, it does. You could have had that, the Young Buck exploding thing here in this match, and I guarantee you would have gotten the same result out of the fan reaction. So I don't think it's because of, there is just something missing, and I don't know what it is. And I think in terms of AEW's booking, because there's so much that goes on week to week, right? And show to show, that I think a lot of people forgot about the whole Britt Baker getting attacked and everything like that. They did it so far stretched out that it wasn't even in the purview of the people in attendance.
Was it that they forgot, or they didn't care? Because
Maybe
that is another thing. It's like this was an assault on this guy's wife, and it just kind of either from the time distance or just the way they handled it because of Jericho's smugness and Cole's almost not he didn't react like his wife just got caned in front of him for the next couple of weeks. So because even on Dynamite when they had the contract signing and they re-showed that, it was kind of dead. So I don't 100%.
Know. And also, I mean, I happen, Steve, you were at the event live. Well, I mean, you're in California in the Forum in Inglewood. The last thing that we saw in terms of female performers is Willow Nightingale, bust up. Was it Anna Jay or what? I'm sorry. It's either Anna Jay or
Anna.
Yeah, it was Anna, right? Well, she got her head split open. So the caning, in terms of like less is more. The caning isn't the worst thing that we've seen. If you watch AEW week to week, is not even the worst thing that you saw done to a female by a male week to week. So I think that also has it. When we were watching ECW and Francine was getting pile drive through the table and whatever, we never saw that before. Mae Young getting powerbomb by Bubba Ray. We had never seen it before to an older lady, right? How many, 20 some odd years, 20, 25, almost 30 years between those two events respectively. And then just AEW alone, we see crazy stuff happen, or a Jade Cargill match. That lady kills her opponents. Now you could attribute it to being green or what have you, but yeah, like there's a place on earth, kind of montage of her just wrecking female competitors, and it is rough. That is probably worse than an MMA match. I think I would rather, if I was an AEW competitor going up against Jade Cargill, I would probably literally do a gamut of just maybe Chris Cyborg, Amanda Nunes, and just punch out only, because that was safer than a Jade Cargill match.
All right, Simon Street, why don't you chime in a little bit, because you're sitting here silent. You're kind of hearing what the thoughts are about, some of this in terms of, the product, the storylines. You got a chance to kind of watch some of this last week. What do you feel that you're feeling on along those lines that the guys are talking about here?
Well, I think a lot of it, and I've said it before, AEW needs seasoning. And the reason why I use that analogy is you can have a core of something with good ingredients, but if you lack seasoning in just the right amount and you spread it across, you're serving up something that's incomplete. And I think that, again, and I've always said it, man, Steve, I'm always saying it, right? There's good talent and there's good veterans who can facilitate seasoning. The bigger problem is management, the way the company is run. And I'm sorry, I'm always going to go back to Tony Khan. I get it. I'm not there, but I can only assume, because I've seen other companies take the same problem road. You're trying to facilitate everything in one direction with only just you. You're not Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon was able to do that, if that's truly the case. And even he didn't do it all the time because he has constituents that handle that stuff. You have to learn to delegate, because if you had the right people in place, you could have taken, as Adams has said before, and I think Steve said too, I called them like C matches, right? If you looked at the card, you could have added seasoning and turned that into a beat. You could have used what we've known for years, build up matches, which requires you to have consistent storylines and dedicate yourself to them. WWE finally realized, hey, let's just dedicate ourselves to it. If it doesn't go good, let's close the chapter. Let's not leave these chapters open. Michaels, you made an excellent point with Adam Cole, and with his wife getting caned, I did not see the reaction that I wanted. I was looking for him to be distraught like Edge was when Beth Phoenix got taken out. Not seeing that again. That's direction. You need the right people in place to where their singular job is just booking. You need another person, storyline. Now, I'm not saying that AEW doesn't have that, but if you don't have the owner of your company directing that, following up, making sure that it's quality, not quantity, you're going to find yourself in desperate situations. And that's something else y'all talked about. Y'all talked about how too much is they're doing too much. And the reason why they're doing that is because they're trying to just go for spots. I get it. Spots are important. I get that. But you're forcing it. You see what I'm saying? You're trying to get your spoon feeding. And that, just being honest, because again, I'm going to go back. AEW has quality talent. It's not like when AEW first started and you had a couple of no-names. They have so much good tops. Yes. I'm with you, Bam Bam. Yes. Too much bleeding. It's too much bleeding.
American Bam Bam says so. So if you're listening to the show, so we can all blame this on Mox bleeding too much? ?
Slicey.
Well, even to say about the bleeding, which I looked at Double or Nothing, Arn Anderson biting Luchasaurus's freaking thumb and is bleeding. Like, I didn't need to see all that. Bro. That wasn't necessary.
Okay, so first off, that was fake blood.
I know it was fake blood, but I'm saying it was.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Well, look.
We all know put it up there in case,
okay, but let me ask you
a question. There are those individuals that are, oh my God, he bit his fucking thumb off.
We have to start giving, like, AEW has to start doing a disclosure. All things that you see on this show are a figment of storyline and storytelling. All are not real. But anyways, it was too much. I felt like it wasn't even necessary, like, at all. And I know we've seen those too many times. That's my take on it, guys. I could keep going on for like 4 hours on it. It's just Tony Khan needs to take a seat back. If he's going to work on expanding the brand, so be it. Do it, brother. Go and expand it to everybody, okay? But you need to start delegating and putting the right people in place. If Jericho's one of your main people that's doing it, he needs to stop having these matches. He needs to take a back seat and start really putting some season on there, because right now, I'm sorry, man.
So Steve, okay. Let's really quick then.
Yeah.
Look at with all that being said, the main event was the the whole shebang of going around and everything, and all that stadium stuff. But in true AEW fashion, right, the real main event should have been the heavyweight championship if this truly is a wrestling company, right?
So, okay, I can definitely answer that question. Okay, and ultimately, on the surface, if we assume that the craziness of the Anarchy in the Arena match is very easily cleaned up, and if there's not too much downtime from having to reconstruct the ring or whatever they're going to do, then yes, I could see the World Championship match going on last. But the fact of the matter is, logistically, from a time constraint point of view, because if you guys remember to Double or Nothing 2022, the biggest thing that everybody had their panties in a twist about was that, oh my God, the show was 5 fucking hours long. Okay, so logistically and for time reasons, I can understand specifically why they had that match go on last. They're traditionally, and Tony Khan actually did mention this in the media scrum, of the 3 Double or Nothing events, they've had multi-man matches go on last 3 times. So essentially, it's almost as if there's a precedent for it being set that there's going to be a multi-man match, whether it's Stadium Stampede or Anarchy in the Arena, that goes on last. So, it is what it is. Yes, they could always, make that change and go back to the world title going on last. But there are some instances where it is warranted. I can definitely say the surprise open challenge answer by Chris Statlander, I think that was the time when the crowd actually woke back up from all of this bullshit. everybody was in a daze, or I don't know, maybe everybody was stoned. I don't know what the fuck it was, but they finally woke up after the Chris Statlander unveiling, and then they were completely sold out for that, that 40 seconds or whatever. And then obviously you have the Four Pillars match, and those four guys went out, they killed it. The build leading up to that match was not good. And we had mentioned that numerous times on the show. But the fact of the matter is they went out there, all four of those guys did deliver, and the match elevated all four of those guys completely.
John says on the chat here, the crowd applauded the fact that Statlander didn't injure her knee for a third time. So
who has a better knee karma, Chris Statlander or Batista in his early run? Anyone?
Bro.
Anyone?
It's terrible.
But
that's
Mari
a good comparison.
Yeah, Mari Yamasaki to Chris Statlander. I think her, you guys were talking about the Four Pillars match. I think from a female perspective, along with Britt Baker, she was one of the ones. And
yes.
Come on, Tony Khan and the whole whatever, Jazzwares, they're talking about like the female talent that they're going to have for the AEW line. Please, Jazzwares, AEW, we need Abaddon, more Abaddon. Just saying.
Facts. It's definitely something that's missing in that women's division.
So, but yeah, I mean, ultimately those four guys, they gave it everything that they had, and the crowd was awake for it. The crowd was completely sold out for these guys. And then obviously you have the Anarchy in the arena match following that. Of course, obviously, everybody knows MJF retained that title, so I don't even really have to go down that list. But, in the Anarchy in the arena match, you obviously, you knew right from the jump that we were going to get bloodshed. You knew that we were going to get all of the garbage, plunder, all that kind of shit that Matt Michaels absolutely loves. And it's a very, very polarizing type of a match. You either love it or you hate it. And, they definitely tried some new things. I don't think that it touched last year. I mean, the whole visual of Eddie Kingston looking like he's gone through hell, stumbling down to the ring, carrying a gas can, threatening to set someone on fire. That's a little bit more menacing than what we got this year, even though it was quite explosive.
I got a question for you, Steve. There's a lot of hoopla on the band that played Wild Thing, and primarily the lead singer showed up they call it impromptu blackface, but even still, right? And I looked at their Twitter following, probably about 1,500, followers, and the greatest, claim to fame is collabing with Mox in AEW, right? So from a live crowd perspective, was there a reaction to any of that, or did everybody just go to the match at hand? Or
match?
Okay, and even honestly, as we're leaving, nobody.
It really didn't make too much of a difference. I mean, last year they had Wild Thing playing on a loop, and they had Jericho destroy the soundboard, which in turn got him major heat. This year they had the live band doing it, and it was kind of interesting because they played through it one full time, and then they started up again, and there's a pop for it. They started up again, there's an even louder pop for it. So it's actually elevating. And then the super kick spot happened. It was cool. I mean, I didn't even pay any attention to the lead vocalist at all. There's a time and a place for things. And have they come out and said anything about?
No, they haven't. So
all that I'll say is, even if it's unintentional, you need to be able to read the room. You need to be able to see that we are in 2023. You have to double and triple check every single thing that you do so that it cannot be construed as anything, because God forbid the cancel mob comes for you.
And not just that, but they purport themselves AEW heels. There's initiatives like an inclusionary initiative and what have you. And then this goes under, it's just like what happened with Mauro Ranallo and JBL, right? You want to be a star, but you've got like a commentator that comes to you from kind of wrestling adjacent, right? You grew up in Calgary, but also did, Pride and everything like that. But he's getting bullied. All the while you're showing like every, commercial break a Be a Star initiative. It's kind of hyperbole.
Yeah. But, I was going to say real quick before we jump on, something that was mentioned a little bit earlier, and I didn't mention it. Branding. I think that, a lot of things that people will say that AEW does lack is branding, because they rely so heavily on their fans. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is when you brand something, you have to account for not only your fans, but also for new people new to the product. And I feel like AEW does sometimes do fall short of that. And that's only coming from me from trying to get other people, because they know I watch WWE, but I do like AEW, and I try to get people to watch it. It's really, really, really hard, and it's very all over the place. And again, if they would do some more organizing and, like I said before, some seasoning, that could be helpful too. Because here's the thing. As you stated, those four guys, the Four Pillars match, Double Nothing, was great. It was amazing. But that was because they consistently did those video packages, and they tailored people to come along. If I had one person that was interested in watching Double or Nothing, and I wanted to sell them on that match, I could have them go back and watch just those video packages, right? We know this is timelessly what WWE does, but I didn't see that same due care for other matches. So it just kind of looked like, what the hell? Well, like, okay, it's exciting, it's cool, but there wasn't much. And so that's why I said before, like, these are misses that AEW's having. And I will say this, and I'll close out and we'll move on. I do want AEW to continue to come to Vegas. I really honestly do. But if they're going to keep missing these things, they're going to miss an opportunity, because this city is the landscape is going to be a lot different in about 5 years. And whoever was already grandfathered in is going to benefit from that. They opt out and go somewhere else, they may not have an opportunity to get that spot locked in. I'll say it then.
Okay, I just want to take a quick second to say I am hoping that Don is getting better. You're in the hospital, buddy, and definitely looking out to see you getting better and hanging out with you soon. So take care of yourself, and thank you for tuning in. You are definitely a unique superhero, buddy. So hang in there and take care of yourself. One of the things when you're talking about this that I really kind of have a big problem with was the fact that on Dynamite, we get Jericho and Saraya versus Adam Cole and Britt Baker.
And that's the match that we should have gotten at the fucking pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the fucking match that we should have gotten 100%. At the pay-per-view. Not just the match up, but the match that they did on Dynamite.
Yep.
Was a better match than what we got at that pay-per-view.
Which it's going to devalue your pay-per-view audience, because if you could just wait until Wednesday, you're cannibalizing your business in even a bigger way than what WWE did when they moved everything to the network, right? You literally you found the people that in a market that we've got New Japan World, all of these streaming services that you can get your combat sports, or even YouTube where you can get everything a la carte. Right, for free. You found a segment of people that will still willing to pay $50, $60, $80 for a pay-per-view 4 times a year, if not more, and you give them this, and only to be on Wednesday. So the pay-per-view basically was a infomercial to watch on Wednesday, but I paid $80 for the pay-per-view. But wait, there's more, but not here, there. That's the problem. But, again, before we move on, Loki MVP, I don't know if you guys got the pre-show, but RJ City had an interview with Arn Anderson, where Arn Anderson, they were like, hey, RJ City basically was like, hey, you got your gun tonight? Ask your mama. Says Arn, thank you for my new stepdaddy, Arn Anderson. That, to me, was the Loki MVP spot of the night. And again, you guys were talking about like veterans in the ring that AEW has on its roster, Dustin Rhodes, like there's a litany of people, but behind the scenes you've got Arn. At one point you had the Brainbusters, Tully and Arn, Jerry Lynn, BJ Whitmer, like literally people who have drawn money in different eras. Dean Malenko, top of when Jonathan Gresham is talking about like, well, I'm this place in the PWI. Malenko 5'6", number one in the PWI, not winning a championship to boot. Right.
Exactly.
So I'm just saying, and you have all of that, and I have a kind of a low-key tinfoil hat theory. If Tony Khan, when he launched AEW, right, knew the access of talent that he was going to have in about 20 months, maybe the EVPs aren't EVPs. I'm just saying.
Oh, without a doubt. That's one of the first things when AEW first came about and they said this EVP shit, I was like awestruck, like, what the fuck does that mean? Is this a gimmick? And no disrespect to those guys and what they put into it. I'm just saying I would have never picked my cabinet to go in.
Yeah. So that's it. You know, and the Young Bucks, I'll give them the credit where it's due. We didn't see vlogging, right? It brought to wrestling the way we did. You know, and Colt Cabana has it. We never saw podcasting. Yeah, what we're all doing now in the form of it. He was an innovator, right? Yep. As were the Bucks. The fact that they could get their stuff in a worldwide brand like Hot Topic, right? But then what? It's like, then the bell rang. That's what we're getting now. Then the bell rang. This is like a Berserker John Lord Iron Man match. We didn't see it because we didn't need to see it. We didn't see Garrett Dog doing 90 minutes with Flair because it ain't happening, right? 15 minutes, maybe at best. This is what we're seeing. That time in the sun that the Young Bucks, and even the fact that they have AEW is all elite wrestling. When Sean and Trip Sean top, all degenerate wrestling, WWD, like they pretty much bookended their entire company on the elite being there. If they're to go for whatever reason, lack of job performance or what have you, or just the nepotism gives to their head, well, what do we got? What's AEW like? Love them or hate them without the elite? Well, one guy is already out of here, and he's the top draw for the other company. So what do we got?
I mean, you know, they could always go the route of WWE and just call themselves All Entertainment Wrestling. You know.
Ooh,
you know what?
Didn't Money Mark do that?
I'm totally kidding with that, by the way.
No, I know you are, but no. But that's a good point, because although you're joking about that, there's a huge mass of people who use that as their parade to start with for every tribalistic argument they can, and it's sad to where I just listen and I'm like,
yep.
I mean, and listen, if you're going to do this, the bullshit about this whole thing is exactly this. It's very simple. AEW is doing what exactly the WWE does, but they do it in a poorer fashion with their storytelling. They, quote, have better wrestling, all right, because they have people that the fan base enjoys more, but do not reach the scope of the WWE, because the WWE is an entertainment company and it's easier to retain eyes, especially younger eyes, for that period of time, and then lose them and bring them back when they have kids. AEW has a hard time getting more fans interested because you have a stickler base that is all about, oh no, we're about wrestling. Oh, did you see that fucking fire to his face and exploding kick and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? Make up your mind, kids.
Yes.
It's all entertainment, regardless.
And you know what? Like they say, blondes are a dime a dozen, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to offend. That's a saying. It was way before me. I'm just kind of, canarying it. But
there's lots of blondes.
Yeah. So with that all being said, a good match is a dime a dozen, right? You could go to FSW, you could go to Rival Pro, you could go to your local indie and see a great match. And what you guys, your assessment of a hot crowd, can carry a mediocre match, like whatever. What constitute as a good match are a dime a dozen right now. You can see it everywhere. Literally, you can throw a rock and you'll find a great match, right? But the storyline behind it, right? At a precipice where both companies, right, in the WWE and AEW are linked to essentially two larger conglomerates, AOL Time Warner, or Time Warner, HBO Max, whatever, for AEW, and then WWE is a part of Endeavor, right? Along with the UFC. So now you have access to a bigger fan base, right? And a bigger conglomerate. You have everything that you need to be successful in ways that TNA and whoever, WrestleLicious, WoW have failed before, right? But what? You haven't grown your fan base out of what initially came in with you. And you got to remember, you guys, Sid, Steve, you were talking about the arena taped off, right? Well, that's what WWE had going into that 2-year lockdown that we were all in, right? That is it, right? So with that all being said, AEW predicated their entire kind of baseline business strategy on the fact that WWE sucked. Vince McMahon was a tyrannical dictator. It's no longer that. It's gotten better. Actually, in terms of creative, one would argue, even though I'm not a Roman Reigns fan, the Bloodline storyline, pretty damn good. So I'm just saying.
You know what's also interesting as well, and we kind of touched on a little bit, is we always go to the comparison between what WWE is doing and what AEW is doing. AEW, I get having to go back and do some of those things, but if you're not looking to do that better, then what are you doing? You're wasting your resources. Do you see what I'm saying? They're doing this all the time. What they could be doing is going what they did when they first started, coming up with their own branding, coming up with their own identity. They lost track of that since Sin City Steve. You tell me, do you feel that AEW in these past, where we're going on 4 years, 5 years, 5 years, 4 years? How many years?
4 years. 4 years.
4 years, 4-ish years, right? Are they starting to lose their initial brand?
I don't know if they're starting to lose their initial brand, but I think that the last year has been a serious downturn for that company. You can quite frankly, you can date it back to Double or Nothing last year here in Vegas when CM Punk won the world title from Hangman Page. And that laid the seeds for what we saw after All Out. And then the fallout from that set the company on an extremely downward trajectory. And we're still looking to see if they can hopefully rebound from it.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, because it's deja vu for me.
Yeah.
Same thing happened with TNA when they decided to go Impact Wrestling.
And
I feel the same exact way.
American Bam Bam said it at the same time you were saying it, Steve. They lost track of it when Punk acted a fool and had to be benched for 9 months. So, that definitely, it's all good points. But one of the things you guys said that will kind of move us in a different direction here that I think is very apparent, and that is the idea of storylines make a difference because there are so many good matches. There are a dime a dozen nowadays. And one of the things that brings us to is the fact that during AEW's weekend, there was a hell of a lot of good independent wrestling. And one of the things that I stood out, noticed, was the idea of, all these shows were shows that were basically put together for the most part without many stories to them. All right. These were just matchups of wrestlers that maybe you haven't seen, or maybe it is a continuation that you've seen them wrestle, maybe on the East Coast, each other a couple times, but never in the West Coast. Different examples of matches that were solid, but not necessarily because of the actual stories behind the feuds, just the talent itself. There was a lot going on. GCW, of course, was in town. They had a great show on Friday night. FSW, Future Stars of Wrestling, went against GCW, and it was it was a great time because of the fact that those guys worked their asses off, and the fans were into it 100%. There were a lot of other good shows that went on. I know, Steve, you took part in some of these. Anything stand out to you during the actual Full Tilt weekend during AEW's Memorial Day weekend?
Yes. The MVP for me from Double or Nothing weekend was Matt Vandegrift. He won the Legends Rise tournament, won the Future Legends title, defeating Jack Cartwheel, Jordan Oliver, and Titus Alexander in an elimination 4-way to win that championship. It was a single night tournament. Elsewhere involved in the tournament, people like Billy Starks, Alec Price. It was a very, very solid show. And quite frankly, that right along with the standard GCW show are up there for me as far as shows of the weekend. So, everybody just killing it. Quite frankly, I didn't expect to see Zack Sabre Jr. in a GCW ring in North Las Vegas at the Silver Nugget. Yeah, I wouldn't have had any of those things in that order, but so be it.
For those who can't see, Adam's face just went.
The Silver Nugget still exists?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it sure does, man.
That was the place where I saw my first live wrestling event at all. It was like Junkyard Dog and Iron Sheik on top. This had to be 94, 93, 94. Yeah, absolutely. RVD had like a desktop calendar. Split with the dumbbells and everything like that. Do they still have the casino up top, and then you have to go down into? Holy shit! Yeah, holy shit! I got goosebumps. Look at that. That was literally the site when the year or so that I lived in Vegas. That was the site. Like every other Friday.
Nothing has changed.
It's the same.
Oh,
the smell is the same.
The stuff hanging from the ceiling either in that amount of time.
Okay, that's the place where Virgil tried to steal my mom. That is also like I was standing in line, a big Bret Hart fan. Here's Jim the Anvil Neidhart, whatever. Standing in line, whatever, and I literally get pushed to my ass as like a 7-8-year-old kid. I look up and here's fucking. The fucking chesticles of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. And I was just in front of the Newport, cigarette machine with the fucking pulleys and whatever. Mm-hmm. And his belly just fucking knocked me to my ass right before. I saw Sabu Sabu run the fuck out because people were trying to expose his gimmick. That didn't sound right. But as we were, playing bowling after the show, me and my parents and my sister, at the far end. So I am so glad that the fucking Silver Nugget exists. It was actually the last place where I saw a Junkyard Dog alive because he would die. I would say like this is right after he did that ECW deal. So within probably 2 months of him passing away. Wow. So yeah. So many great memories. Actually, I saw fucking Jerry Lynn versus Rob Van Dam 2 years before they did it in ECW. Jerry Lynn was coming off of Global on the ESPN, and then fucking RVD was coming off of Robbie V in WCW. So I knew them of that. So yeah, fuck yeah, Silver Nugget, fuck yes.
Now you mentioned Jerry Lynn. I'm going to kind of tie it back into what we were talking about a little bit ago. At the last ROH tapings, Tony Khan brought out Stokely Hathaway and Jerry Lynn and stated that they were on the ROH board of directors. So I don't believe that it's going to be an on-camera like authority figure. I legit think that he's going to have them booking and matchmaking for Ring of Honor.
I love it. I mean, but the craziest thing I saw was Madison Rayne on the dais to book the fucking like the third or fourth tier behind Lacey or in front of Lacey Von Erich and the Beautiful People judging ROH pure title match. Right on.
You know, one thing that I think about Michael's a little like you were going to go in that direction, so I thought about it.
Go ahead.
The reason why a lot of these indie shows do so great, and as we said, you can see great matches, is because for us wrestlers, you don't really need a storyline, because a lot of it is just like it's a cultural fest. At the end of the day, it's a wrestling cultural fest. That's what I look at it, and it doesn't matter what town you go to. When you have your WrestleManias, you have your Double or Nothings, people can engage and experience the culture at its purest, right? It's devoid of all of the financial gains and special this and that. It's good and it's fun. So yes, storylines do mean something on a higher level, I feel, but I also feel at the same time, I'll take it back to what you call it. I think it was this past Monday Night Raw. AJ Styles was saying you couldn't hack it in indie wrestling. You see what I'm saying? Where I come from, that type of thing is the culture. So for anybody new or anybody pre-existing, and as you stated too, Woods, how those memories flood back. You remember if when you first started, like my parents couldn't afford to give me no tickets to no WWE event or anything like that. But I remember when I first got a chance to go to some indie wrestling, I remember the smell. I remember how hot it was. I remember how uncomfortable, but I didn't give a shit because it was fun, what I saw. I didn't know who it was. But again, that's an experience that somebody can have. Also,
an asterisk, they were 4 for 20 at the Silver Nugget. So that's how we got to see it. And I think I got because I was a remedial English whatever, I think I got like a handicapped student discount so I'm the unprototypical wrestling fan. I'm maybe in my basement right now.
That's okay. The best things happen in the basement.
That's what.
Say hi to your mom. Say hi to your mom for us, man.
Huh?
Say hi to your mom for us.
Okay. She's.
I thought you were going to yell upstairs. I thought you were going to do it.
She's cremated in my closet. Never mind. I'm sorry. Buffalo Bill all the way.
Buffalo Bill. Oh my God. There you go. If you're from Vegas, you'll know Buffalo Bill.
Yes. Right at state line.
All right, so
you could die on that roller coaster. By the way,
all right,
living up to the name.
Sorry. As we kind of wrap up wrestling talk here, final thoughts, guys. Each of you, anything that stood out to you in this week, you just want to mention really quick. Let's start with Simon Street.
This week, you mean in all wrestling or just AEW?
Yeah. All wrestling. Anything that you saw this week stood out to you?
The one thing that stood out in my mind is just the confirmation that I'm on point when I say I know we're talking AEW, but WWE, Shinsuke Nakamura, 100 fucking %, launch him to the moon. That match he had with Bronson Reed, if that don't tell you, it is his time. And also LA Knight, a lot of potentials for Money in the Bank. To where did you hear that crowd on SmackDown? They were, yeah. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna shut the fuck up.
All right. Sin City Steve.
All right. So we have 2 matches announced for AEW New Japan Forbidden Door taking place 3 weeks from tonight. Will Ospreay defeating Lance Archer in the finals of the tournament to determine who's going to face Kenny Omega for the IWGP United States Championship.
Lance Archer.
Omega Ospreay Forbidden Door. Sign me up.
Forbidden Door is going to be awesome.
I see 2 people on the panel like rolling their eyes, and then I see one other person saying it's going to be awesome. So
I like Forbidden Door because it goes back to what I said. It's like a clash of 2 worlds. Yeah, I know it sounds bad, like the one the long and the one the whole. But my point is, Forbidden Door is like a wrestling fest. You don't need to have concrete storylines. It's just the best of both worlds collide. It's fun.
Definitely.
And it all happens inside of Wood's basement.
Oh, right here. Like right there. Right there.
So that is the Forbidden Door.
That's what consent is always sexy, folks.
There you go. Touch your toes and spell run out loud.
We're checking for polyps here.
All right, Steve.
And really quick, the other match that we are getting at Forbidden Door will be Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada. Thank you, God. It happened after the never open weight 6-man titles were defended. Okada, Tanahashi, and Ishii defeating Moxley, Claudio, and Shota Umino. And yeah, they said, the BCC said that they had a message. And you had Okada standing in the ring, Bryan Danielson on the edge of a cliff, being all zen. And he just summed up the promo saying that when you get in the ring with him, that it's the fucking desert and there's not going to be any rain. I loved it, dude. I sign me up already. Forbidden Door is going to be fucking dope. And it's 3 weeks from tonight.
All right, Adam Woods, what do you got?
Oh my God. I'm going to blame the Endeavor for the fucking WWE belts being so shit. They're so shit. One looks like the fucking Golden Nugget took a shit. I'm sorry, Takeshita, all over fucking Seth Rollins' fucking belly region, right? And then the other one looked like a version of Snoop Dogg's smoker belt that somebody stole not too long ago going into Mania and whatever the fuck. Like those, that's what it is. And the UFC, they call them legacy titles or whatever. They look like a fucking golden paper plate, that you have at a cookout and a barbecue or whatever. That's a shit belt compared to the other one, right? The what I consider the legacy title, right? And then now that they've acquired WWE and the TKO and whatever the fuck, well, now we get shitty belts for WWE. So fuck off, Endeavor, is what I'm saying. Yes. LA Knight, Nakamura, push him to the moon. I mean, fucking fly me to the moon before any of those matches. What else is there? God. Oh, shout out to the good brother of Alex Coughlin and Gabriel Kidd joining the fucking Bullet Club, which most people think that the Bullet Club is overdone, and maybe it is, but like for those new guys and for the new LA New Japan Dojo to be featured in such a prominent spot, I think it's fucking amazing. So shout out to the good brothers. I guess a cheap plug, like Coughlin was talking about his New Japan situation on the According to Woods podcast right before Bloodsport going into WrestleMania week. So that's there. But yeah, shout out to them. But yeah, the fucking shitty titles, make better titles. And I know what they're doing because they, I think Bixel makes UFC's belts and then the little like jewelry that nobody buys. I've never seen anybody rock a Bixel anything, right? And then the first incarnation of what we now know as the WWE Universal whatever, the really weird shit logo was done by the American Chopper guys. So that first one that The Rock debuted or what have you. And we're I think because of the lawsuits of like Randy Orton's tattoos and the WWE video games and all that, whatever, we're going to get generic titles. Gone are the Reggie Parks, Dave Milliken, Rico Man, Jamar, you name them. Name your favorite belt maker and your favorite belt design. They are gone because this is the new era. I mean, it's not the Switchblade era. It's the shit belt era.
Also, the entrance videos are very basic as well.
100% they are. And I love how Triple H gave the same nondescript reasoning for the fucking title. Like you gave us nothing. Like you just in the back in Gorilla watch the episode of Seinfeld. I got it. Fuck and go to the ring. It's like fucking nothing.
How is it the undisputed Universal Championship? I mean, especially when there's the World Heavyweight Championship now on the other show.
And also one of Roman's titles also says World Heavyweight Champion.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, our world champion doesn't fucking defend this shit. Rather than strip him, we're gonna give a fucking mediocre title to somebody else. And then we're gonna do it in Saudi Arabia, the fucking Blood Money show.
It's a fucking participation trophy.
It is. And is Roman doing 3?
Talk all you want to fucking talk about this.
Okay.
The idea of titles really doesn't fucking matter at all anyway, because Jade Cargill, who was 95,000-0,
No,
lost
she
in
was
40 seconds to Chris Statlander for no fucking reason. So again,
I hate that they
the
dropped
belts might
Taya
look like
out.
shit, but the stories are
Yes,
even worse
thank you.
sometimes.
But Jade
love
should have
Chris.
never been 60-0. She didn't earn that.
Fuck! You ask every fucking enhancement talent that wrestled her that were fucking black and blue, they'll tell you that that was shoot. It was fucking shoot. Where's fucking Sin Cara and Mystico's ass talking about all the lucha libre fucking fights or shoots? Fucking Jade Cargill, send her to Mexico. Fuck it, she'll fuck everyone up.
All right. On that note, everyone, we are going to be ending Wrestling Talk. We're going to be switching over to 3 Count here in a second if you're watching, and tune back on in a few minutes here. If you're listening on the podcast, again, you could tune in tomorrow for 3 Count. And again, it's according to Woods. So if you want to tune in and catch Adam Woods' show, feel free to look him up on all the wonderful streaming podcast platforms out there.
And I post dumb shit on the socials too at the same underscore whatever the fucks.
Yeah, so look for dumb shit on According to Woods, because it really is some dumb shit.
Hey, there's a lot of dumb shit, but if you want specifically good dumb shit, go there.
There you go. Your outlet for good dumb shit, According to Woods.
Exactly. So
that's my tagline.
Again, thank you very much for tuning in this week to Wrestling Talk. And until next week, you guys happy wrestling.